Kody Brown just spent over $2 million on what he calls a new beginning. But the reality is far from starting anew. This is a desperate father trying to buy the love of children who have totally abandoned him. The father of sister wives, and Robyn, his only remaining wife, just purchased a gigantic Arizona estate that is 7,884 square feet, has 6 sleeping areas, guest rooms, and a garage for recreational vehicles to themselves. It seems impressive, right? Here is the kicker. Kody actually believes that building this will reunite them. Here's a teaser, they're not coming back. In his recent October broadcast, Kody unveiled his grand scheme with a virtually meaningless level of self-delusion. He described the estate as a new start and insisted it's a place for my children to come and visit. The 18-child father went on to describe how many stressed relationships there are between myself and my adult children. He considers this home an optimal opportunity to invite them in and perhaps spend time as a family. Notice the use of that word, perhaps. Even Kody himself seems doubtful this plan will work. But let's talk about what Kody's really fleeing. The previous Flagstaff home, which sold for $1.7 million, held only painful memories for the family. That place saw Kody going through separations from his former spiritual wives, Mary, Janelle, and Christine. That's where the family fought through pandemic lockdown that isolated them. Most poignantly, that's where Kody found out about the death of his son Garrison in March 2024. The patriarch admitted the home contained anguish in it and spoke of feeling deep depression as the divorces happened and the household came apart around him. Of course, Kody's response is to pay for the problem, rather than to go through the hard work of genuine reconciliation, taking ownership, and being present for his children. He's banking on space and amenities to miraculously heal nearly 2 decades of damage. He even made a provision for his daughter, Truly, though sources state that it's more of a space that is like her room rather than being her actual place. Even in his great deed, Kody is not able to give himself entirely. The reality Kody refuses to accept is totally heartbreaking. Besides Robyn's 3 eldest children, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna, the 56-year-old TV star is estranged from the majority of his adult children. Facts affirm he has not seen some of his grandchildren in over 3 years. He's been kept out of family parties. Maybe most telling of all, when his children were asked about the new home, their reactions ranged from complete indifference to outright scorn. Still, Kody persists in his fantasy. He still believes that a bigger kitchen space, more sleeping areas, and new painting will somehow erase years of neglect, favored treatment, and broken promises. What he does not understand is that his children aren't looking for a home to stop by. They're looking for a father who actually shows. Kody may think that any of his children might give him another chance. Madison Brush just shut that door down and eliminated the access. Janelle's second oldest daughter has soundly and firmly rejected both Kody and Robyn. From all the sources, she's not backing away anytime soon. During the season premiere, which aired in September, Janelle broke news that has been talked about within family circles for months. Madison has not had any sort of communication with her father, Janelle broke in a private interview. He has not called her, she has not called him, and she has no contact with Robyn. She's basically shut them down both. Let that sink in for a moment. Madison, once having what appeared to be an acceptable relationship with her father, has instituted total no communication. No phone calls, no text message communication, sheer silence. It's even more tragic when you understand why. Janelle explains that the root issue lies with Kody's relationship with Madison's 3 children, Axel, Evangeline, and Josephine. Madison saw her dad attempting these inadequate, sporadic visits with her children, and she eventually set limits. She doesn't really want him to have any contact unless he's able to commit to it, Janelle explained, adding that Madison has been very guarded. This is where the betrayal gets even deeper. Kody has not seen Madison's children in over 3 years. These are his own grandchildren, and he cannot even have normal contact. Reports indicate that as the Brown family started truly breaking apart after his breakups with Mary, Janelle, and Christine, Kody somehow ended communication with Madison and her husband, Caleb Brush. He just gave up trying. Madison saw each missed contact that never was made, each birthday that passed without acknowledgement, each success her children achieved that their grandfather was not aware of. But things become even more muddled if you look at what Kody had to say about Madison in previous seasons. The 18-year-old father really had the audacity to describe his own daughter as a tattleteller on national TV. Mykelti, Madison's sister, recognized how hurtful that was when she did a fan interaction session. Once you bring things on the show like this, there is no going back, Mykelti explained. When he brings things on the show like this, you're done. Madison has seen this episode now. Madison is angry. That entry is closed, locked, and it will be closed forever unless he makes a statement regarding the program and withdraws what he said. That entry is not just locked. Sources close to the family say Madison has effectively abandoned the entry and altered the entire security setup. She's done being around games with a father who treats her children like extraneous additions to his life rather than worthy grandchildren deserving regular love and attention. Honestly, can anyone blame her? When you're a mother watching your own father continually let down your children, sooner or later you have to protect them from that pain. Gabriel Brown's story is the kind of devastation no children should ever have to face. When he finally disclosed what lost his relationship with Cody forever, onlookers were left totally devastated. This wasn't all drama, confrontation, or a series of growing arguments. No, this was something much more painful. This was the painful, heartbreaking realization that your very own father can't even remember your birthday. The way it all happened is enough to infuriate anyone. Let's set the scene. Earlier in January, Gabriel caught the virus. It was not even a bad case. He never got a fever, never needed to be hospitalized. He just lost his sense of smell and coped like so many other people did during the pandemic. Fast forward to October 11th, Gabriel's birthday. His phone is ringing and it is his father. For one moment, perhaps, Gabriel felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe his father was reaching out to wish him a happy birthday, to ask about him, to show that he cared. But no, Cody had something on his mind, and it wasn't his son's birthday. Gabriel described the poignant moment in a tearful private interview that left him holding back tears. October comes, specifically October 11th, my birthday, and father calls me and we briefly talk about how serious my case of the virus was, he explained. This is where it becomes absolutely heartbreaking. Gabriel made a conscious decision not to tell his father that it was his birthday. Why? Because he wanted to see if Cody would remember on his own. He wanted to believe that somewhere within his dad's mind, his birthday was important enough to be remembered on its own. I shouldn't have done it, but I did anyway. I didn't tell him that it was my birthday because I wanted to see if he remembered. And he didn't, Gabriel said, his voice cracking with sadness. Think about what that means for a second. Gabriel was basically seeing if he meant anything to his dad, and he flunked that test spectacularly. For Cody, it was merely another call about virus symptoms on the phone. For Gabriel, it was the moment that confirmed his biggest fears about where he stood in his dad's life. It was just a phone call for him, though it was much worse for me, Gabriel admitted. The agony in those words is absolutely apparent. At the time, Cody did finally see his enormous mistake. He called Gabriel afterwards to wish him a happy birthday and try to make amends, but by then, the damage was horrifically done. Gabriel had his answer: his birthday, his life, his place in his father's life. None of it was noteworthy enough to need remembering without prompting. He tried to reach me afterwards, wish me a birthday, and make amends. That's the last time ever that I ever spoke with my father, Gabriel revealed. That birthday call wasn't just an overlooked anniversary. It was the ultimate confirmation that Gabriel just didn't count enough. Here's the thing that makes this even more maddening. This wasn't happening in a vacuum. Gabriel had already seen his father favor Robyn and her children for years. He'd seen the favoritism, the double standard, the way Cody would go out of his way for some children and consider others an afterthought. The forgotten birthday was just the tipping point. The incident that made Gabriel decide that he was owed better than to ask for pieces of his father's attention. Insiders close to the family reveal that Gabriel hasn't wavered in his resolve. He's done. That door isn't opening back up anytime soon. Christine's only son, Kody Brown, just dropped some bombshell news that has followers utterly surprised, and it pertains to one of the most cherished and painful experiences in the Brown family's recent past. Garrison Brown's funeral in March 2024 should have been a time for the household to unite in mourning, to support one another through an unimaginable tragedy. Instead, it became the ultimate breaking point between Peyton and his father, and what transpired at that funeral. Well, Peyton's remaining silent about the specifics. However, what he has disclosed is explosive enough to create a quite devastating picture. During a recent live session on TikTok, Peyton replied to followers who were constantly asking the same question over and over. Do you talk to your dad? Do you have any connection with Cody? The answer came swift and definitive. The last time that I spoke with him was a while back, Peyton stated unequivocally. But then he dropped the real shocking news that got everyone's reactions on the floor. The last physical conversation I had with him was during the funeral. Not going to get into that because it didn't go the way it could have gone. Let that statement sit for a minute. At his own brother's funeral, at what ought to have been a time of homecoming together in the face of cataclysmic loss, something happened between Peden and Kody so bad, so painful, that Peden refuses to comment further on it on the public record. The internet community, without a crystal ball, released excerpts from Peden's live session. And within minutes of being out there, followers were speculating wildly about what might have happened. Was there a fight? Did Kody say something irreparable? Did Peden finally let out all the anger and resentment he'd been holding onto for all those years? Whatever happened, it was obviously powerful enough that Peden regards it as the definite end to any possible relationship with his father. What makes this even sadder is understanding the background. Garrison's passing was a sheer tragedy that shook the entire Brown family to its core. Janelle eventually informed the authorities that she wished she had gotten Garrison help earlier, acknowledging he'd been experiencing mental illness issues and alcoholism. Gabriel, Garrison's brother and roommate, had expressed concern over Garrison's well-being. The entire family was coping with grieving, guilt, and the staggering weight of what-ifs. Somehow, in the midst of all that misery, Kody still managed to alienate yet another of his sons. Peden hasn't been shy about how he feels about his father since that funeral. He's used social media multiple times to share his total lack of interest in having any sort of stable relationship with Kody. When asked bluntly if he'd hate to talk to his dad again, Peden's answer was telling. He didn't say yes, but he definitely didn't say anything about wanting to make amends either. People close to the family indicate Peden doesn't see the potential for rebuilding their dad-son relationship as anything short of zero. Not unlikely, not difficult, zero. For real, who can blame him? Peden spent years watching Kody treat his mom Christine like an afterthought. He lived through the favoritism toward Robyn and her children firsthand. He saw his father miss important events, cancel plans, and favor one part of the household over the others. The funeral was merely the final extreme. The day when whatever fragile bond had once connected father and son finally parted ways entirely. Sources suggest that Peden has come to terms with the fact that Kody will never be the father he needed. He's chosen to move on ahead. This is where Kody's entire reconciliation plan totally breaks down. It all comes down to one very specific condition that his children simply refuse to abide by. Kody Brown has explicitly stated that he won't at any cost keep his distance from Robyn in order to mend his relationships with his estranged children. That ultimatum, it's the make or break that is keeping an entire generation of Brown children at arm's length. During a jaw-dropping episode that aired in January 2025, Kody made his conditions clear in a way that left absolutely no room for misunderstanding. He stated outright that he would not cut Robyn to keep a relationship with my child. Let's break down what that actually means. Kody is basically telling his child that if they want a relationship with him, they have to take Robyn along with the whole shebang. No negotiations, no compromises, no discussions, where it's just father and child with Robyn's influence or presence looming in the background. For children who've watched their dad put Robyn ahead of literally everybody else for over a decade, that situation is entirely unacceptable. They've seen how Kody gave Robyn's family care, resources, and time while their own mothers and siblings got whatever was left. They're not going to accept further abuse. Janelle issued fully straightforward statements when speaking about this reality in off-camera interviews. She confirmed what fans have speculated about for decades, revealing that Kody is isolated from 90 to 95% of his offspring. 90 to 95%. That is not a few dysfunctional offspring who refuse to grasp reason. That's a staggering majority of his 18 kids who've looked at the situation and concluded they want nothing to do with their dad. Kody isn't even wanted at family gatherings anymore, claims Janelle. He's not coming no matter who he does or doesn't bring with him, she stated flat out. But this is what makes Kody's attitude even more infuriating. He actually believes that his children would greet him back with open arms if he just stayed home with Robyn. In a December episode, Kody actually bemoaned the situation with an outlook that showed a complete lack of self-awareness. I've got this entire other part of the family that have decided that they're still a family and we're not included, he griped. Now they will let me in that group if I leave Robyn behind. I won't do that. Observe how he's framing himself and Robyn as the victims here. Like his children are the ones being intransigent, in not wanting to play pretend that years of favoritism and neglect never happened. The reality that Kody refuses to accept is that his children don't just have an issue with Robyn being there. They have an issue with the way that Kody essentially transformed once Robyn moved into the home. Christine's children watched their father become totally enamored with his latest wife, explaining how they saw that Kody and Robyn were a couple, whereas he wasn't necessarily present in their own homes. Janelle's offspring witnessed their father cancel visits, forget birthdays, and essentially disengage from their existences while remaining fully engaged with Robyn's household. The problem isn't simply Robyn herself, it's what Kody became when he was with her. Currently, Kody desires his offspring to simply accept that dynamic, to welcome both him and Robyn into their existences, as if the past decade plus of suffering and favoritism never occurred. Sources close to the household say that's not going to happen. The children have set their limit and they're not compromising. They've made it clear to Kody in their actions, if not words, that if he wants a relationship with them, he must show up as their father first, rather than Robyn's husband, who also has other children. Mykelti Padron tried harder than nearly any of Kody's other children to keep the connection alive, and watching her finally give up is absolutely heartbreaking. Christine's daughter was one of the only children for years who openly made an effort to have some sort of connection with both Kody and Robyn. She stood up for her father when others attacked him. She invited them to family gatherings. She left the door open even when she had cause to shut it. But in July of 2024, when Mykelti and her husband Tony moved their lives from Utah to North Carolina with their 3 little children, daughter Avalon and twin boys Ace and Archer, she did one simple thing. Just come see us before we go. One last visit, one final farewell, and Kody couldn't even do that. The whole situation played out while Mykelti was on an episode that aired in October, and watching Mykelti deal with the rejection was absolutely heartbreaking. Organizing her home alongside her mom, Christine Mykelti, admitted what we all knew anyway, but no one wanted to say out loud. I told father he ought to come by and see us before we leave, and it didn't happen. It is what it is, she stated with a cynicism that spoke volumes. That expression, it is what it is, contains so much misery when you really take it into account. It's the voice of someone who's finally resigned themselves to the reality that their father will never fail them in disappointing them, that expecting more is merely setting yourself up for destruction. But wait, because Kody had his own version of things, and it's just the kind of apology you'd expect from someone who refuses to take blame. During his private personal interview, Kody insisted that he and Robyn certainly tried to sit down with Mykelti, Tony, and their children prior to the big move. It was all just bad timing and miscommunication in his eyes. We just were never able to make the contact, he insisted. As if making a visit to see your daughter prior to her relocation across the nation is some sort of logistical impossibility, as if choosing the phone and making it happen is somehow not in the realm of possibility for an adult male. Christine saw straight through that lie, and she did not hold back when talking about the state of Mykelti's relationship with her father. The relationship with them is just not what Mykelti had hoped for, Christine revealed on the October 5th episode, and that statement is so important because Mykelti really tried. She was not one of the children who cut Kody off at the first sign of trouble. She gave him opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. She wanted to believe that her father would come for her and her children. She wanted to believe that she was important enough. But here's where it gets even more painful. During a fan interaction session in October 2024, Mykelti spoke about what it would actually take for Kody to mend relationships with his children. Her answer was straightforward yet impactful. I believe that if he took more responsibility in what he did, his children, maybe not all of them, but at least some of them would contact, she explained. Rather than complaining about the children or complaining about the way they feel regarding his relationship with his other wife, or complaining about the parents, or complaining about gossip or whatever, if he just said, "Look, I understand I did something inappropriate. Excuse me. Can we talk about it?" I think that would go so much further. Observe what Mykelti is asking for here. She is not asking for grand gestures or pricey gifts or drama-filled performances of love. She is asking for simple responsibility, a straightforward acknowledgement that Kody has erred, a sincere apology, a chance for honest conversation. That's it, literally. Somehow, even that is too much for Kody to give. The fact that he couldn't even make it for one final visit before his daughter moved thousands of miles away tells you all you need to know about his priorities. If there is one scene that sums up Kody's shortcomings as a dad, it's the way he handled Isabelle's serious scoliosis surgery, and the betrayal continues to plague their relationship to this day. Isabelle Brown, the daughter of Christine, had fought through years of agonizing suffering, going through treatments, and bracing in an attempt to keep from undergoing surgery. But in the end, surgery was not to be avoided. This was not some small procedure. This was serious spinal surgery that meant flying from Arizona to New Jersey. Isabelle wanted her father present. Isabelle needed her father present, but Kody had other things on her mind. Those things all lived in Robyn's house. Kody's excuse materialized. He said he couldn't chance going with Isabelle and Christine for the surgery for fear that he might get the virus and carry it back to Robyn's young children. Let that sink in. His daughter was getting extremely life-altering surgery, and Cody chose to stay behind because he didn't want to risk exposing Robyn's children to the virus. Not even actually revealing them, just the mere threat was enough for him to leave his daughter at one of the most frightening times in her young life. It gets worse. Cody actually proposed that Christine not even go to either, and if Isabelle absolutely needed to have the surgery, that she go alone. A teenager with major spinal surgery performed alone. Christine, a real mother, dismissed that totally crazy idea entirely and had her daughter with her, however the damage was done. During an emotional interview that aired during the show, Isabelle tried to make sense of her father's resolve with a maturity well beyond her years. "I believe his priorities are a bit misplaced," she said, obviously trying to be respectful in spite of the damage. "I don't want to disrespect him because he's my father and I understand. I do understand why he's doing this. It's just so frustrating and really, really hard." The anguish in her voice was absolutely heartbreaking. Here was this young woman trying to justify why her father chose not to be there for her, making excuses for him while her heart broke. Fast forward to October 2024, and Cody finally admitted on a Sister Wives episode that not going to Isabelle's surgery was one of his 2 giant blunders during the pandemic. One of those blunders was also failing to go to Isabelle's surgery, and that created some bad feelings between several of us, he acknowledged. He even admitted that the whole situation was shattering my heart. The school is closed now. The whole incident with Isabelle present and participating in the surgery, and the whole incident with my family and this double standard of behavior during the pandemic, it's just really, really, really tough. See how even in regret, Cody still manages to put himself at the center. It's shattering his heart. It's hard on him. Not once does he appear to completely understand the trauma he caused his daughter. But the betrayal didn't end there with the surgery. The long-term implications on their relationship have been disastrous. When Isabelle was about to leave for college, she told us about her relationship with her dad in a way that revealed just how far apart they'd grown. "I'm gonna miss my mom more than I'm gonna miss him, I think, because I don't actually think we're close at all. But, I mean, he is still my father," she declared with a sorrowful airiness, as though expecting that her father is basically a stranger is just the norm. At the moment, Isabelle's fears regarding her relationship with Cody have only grown stronger. During an episode in November 2024, she showed real concern that any hope of being close to her father is gradually fading away. She admitted she fears that her relationship with Cody will be barren and will no longer be. Think about what that means. A young woman in her early 20s is already grieving the loss of a relationship with her still living father because she gets how much he's never going to show up for her the way she needs. The surgery was just the start. The real damage is the ongoing absence, the continued deprioritizing, the constant message that she just does not matter enough. Kody Brown has a go-to excuse for why his relationships with his children have fully collapsed. It's as surefire as it is infuriating. Rather than looking in the mirror and seeing his personal failures, Cody has decided to criticize everyone else. During an October installment, the 18-year-old father had the audacity to assert that negative speech and rumor are indeed the real causes of his tenuous relationships with the majority of his adult children. In Cody's warped reasoning, it is not his abandonment, his favoritism, or his broken promises which killed these relationships. No, it is because people have been speaking negatively about him. That has tested loyalty and trust on both sides. Let's just stop for a moment and admire the pure audacity of that statement. Cody really wants observers to believe that his children stopped talking to him due to rumors rather than, actually witnessing his neglect firsthand. He's framing himself as the victim of a smear campaign rather than acknowledging that his inaction, or lack thereof, is what his children left him for. It's a masterclass in deflection, and completely nobody is accepting it. Well, except perhaps Robyn. However, she's got her personal reasons for supporting that narrative. However, here's where Cody's excuse becomes completely demolished. Mykelti, as we've determined, tried harder than anyone to stay connected with her father, cut off his bad-mouthing his story during a fan interaction session that took place in October 2024. Her reply was posted on the social media page @withoutacrystalball, and it cut right through Cody's victim mentality with precision. I believe that if he took more responsibility in anything that he does, his children, maybe not all of them, but at least some of them, would come forward, Mykelti explained, with a purity that had to hurt. She went on, setting precisely where the issue lies. Rather than criticizing his children or criticizing him for feeling his way about his other wife or criticizing the parents or criticizing gossip or whatever, if he just said, "Look, I understand that I made a mistake. I apologize. Can we talk about it? I think that would go a long way. Pay attention to what Mykelti is explaining here, a pattern. Cody criticizes his children. He blames their emotions towards Robyn. He blames the mothers. He blames rumors. He blames literally everybody and everything except himself. His children are worn out by it. They're not asking him to be perfect. They're asking for simple responsibility, and he can't even do that. Kody Brown said this same thing in many different interviews, and she didn't hold back any comments about what Cody must do. During an interview with Access Hollywood, Kody made her stance catastrophically clear. When asked about Cody's efforts to make amends, she stated unequivocally, when he stabilized his relationships with his children, that's when I'll accept the apology. She then went on to give Cody a blueprint for what real reconciliation looks like. Take care of your children, call your children, phone them, hang out with them, and work on that relationship. But then, Kody broke the real truth that revealed why Cody's excuses are so empty. What it takes is action, not words. My children are devastated. Even the ones who talk about how they've progressed on, they've embraced this is their dad, this is what he does. But I can't envision things for my children not having a wonderful relationship with their father, she explained. There you have it. Deeds, not words, not excuses about bad-mouthing, not blame-shifting regarding innuendo and gossip, real concrete actions that show he cares about his children. Cody's problem is that owning up would necessitate that he admit he did bad things. It would call for him to acknowledge that his favoritism of Robyn and her children was real and hurtful. It would call for him to acknowledge that favoring one set of spouses' household over others caused cataclysmic damage. Considering all we've seen, Cody just can't do that kind of self-honesty. It's simpler to lampoon bad speech than face the unpleasant reality that he hurt his children. They never forget every single moment of that defeat. He keeps selling the same old story while his kids stay at arm's length, and the distance between them continues to widen with each day that passes. Kody Brown has drawn a line in the sand with Cody, and she's not budging until he shows her he's deserving of forgiveness. The six-time mom has made it totally obvious that any possibility Cody might have of getting her approval or moving beyond their painful past relies solely on one strict requirement. He must repair his relationships with their children first. Not maybe, not eventually, first. Until that happens, Kody is standing her ground, refusing to allow Cody to escape responsibility for what he's done to a whole generation of Brown children. During an interview with Access Hollywood, Kody made her ultimatum in language so clear that there's absolutely no room for misunderstanding. Asked whether Cody's efforts to make amends for his earlier behavior during season 20 of Sister Wives meant that he was being forgiven, Kody didn't blink. When he mends his relationships with his children, then I'll accept the apology, she asserted, with a firmness that left no doubt this is non-negotiable. She wants nothing to do with his justifications. She doesn't care about his new living arrangements or his statements regarding wanting to make amends. None of those things matter until he actually does the work with his children. But Kody didn't stop there. She went on to give Cody a step-by-step guide to what actual reconciliation really looks like, apparently because the man needs it dictated to him. Take care of your children. Reach out to your children, she told him, with the long-suffering air of someone telling him something utterly obvious. Call them, hang out with them, and build that relationship. It's not hard. It's not some monumental task. It's simple parenting. Choose the phone. Do the effort. Show up every time. Be there. These are things fathers are supposed to do automatically. But for Cody, Kody has to actually map the steps. And then came the statement that truly makes obvious why Kody's ultimatum is so effective. Things have to be done, not words, she insisted. That in itself is the root of the entire problem. Cody is very good at talking about wanting to reunite. He's great at saying important things regarding keeping doors open for his children. He's able to talk about his new home being a place where his children can stop by. But when it comes to doing something about it, when it comes to showing up consistently, making phone calls, going to important events, and putting his money into the day-to-day effort that relationships take, he fails every time. Kody went on to detail the disappointment that Cody's shortfalls have brought, and her words created a heartbreaking scenario of emotional cost to the Brown children. My children are devastated. Even the ones that talk about how they've progressed on, they've embraced that this is their dad, this is what he does. But I cannot fathom what it's like for my children not to have a fantastic relationship with their father, she expressed. Think about what that means. Even the children who have apparently accepted Cody's shortcoming, who have come to grips with the fact that this is just who their father is, are still bearing immense anguish. They've had to mourn the father they needed before he's died. That's a special kind of trauma. Christine's relationship with her own father makes this situation all the more tragic. She's spoken in interviews about how her relationship with her father is one of my favorites, which means that she knows just what her children are lacking. She gets the pleasure and safety that comes from having a father who shows up, who puts you first, who makes you feel special and loved. Watching her own child be deprived of that experience by a man who is more than capable of being a good father, he just chooses not to be. For the majority of his children, that must be absolutely agonizing for Christine. But this is what makes Christine's ultimatum so strong and so necessary. She's not asking Cody to do anything out of the ordinary. She's asking him to do the minimum of being a parent. Call your children, share in their time, show up for important moments, own up to your errors when you mess up. These are simple expectations, not unreasonable requests. By making her acceptance of him conditional upon Cody providing these simple things, Christine is really saying that words mean nothing without follow-through. Apologies mean nothing without reform. Until Cody shows her with consistent, concrete behavior that he's willing to put his children first, he doesn't deserve forgiveness from her or anyone. So here we are again at that $2 million house that was meant to solve all their problems. Cody's huge solution to decades of neglect and favoritism remains there in all its 6-bedroom splendor, with its guest house and recreational vehicle garage. And the brutal fact is utterly shattering. Nobody's coming. His adult children have made it horribly obvious in what they've said and what they've done that they don't care about his new fancy house or his so-called new beginning. Space does not cure broken relationships. Amenities never compensate for years of skipped birthdays and unkept promises. A more spacious kitchen space doesn't erase the recollection of watching your father favor one home over all the rest. Gabriel revealed possibly the most painful reality on the night he shared a dinner with his siblings that was taped for the show. He revealed that Cody once told him he only cares about his younger kids. Let that sink in. Once his children turn 18 and are grown, they're more or less disposable in Cody's mind. Now that most of his children have aged out of his so-called window of care, they're just supposed to take care of themselves, and Cody concentrates on Robyn's younger children who still live in the house. Garrison, who was also at the dinner and just as disconnected from his father, supported Gabriel's assertion fully. He explained that since the last time he'd talked to Cody, he'd gotten into school, bought a house, and acquired a new car. His father had no idea about any of these significant life accomplishments because he just didn't care enough to stay engaged. The new house stands as a testament to Cody's basic misapprehension of what his children really require of him. They don't require more room to come by. They require an appearing father. They don't require a special room that's half theirs. They require actual prioritization and continual effort. They don't require Cody's idealistic fantasy of reconciliation on his terms. They require responsibility, apologies, and actual change. Janelle said it perfectly when she stated there's no interaction really with Mary or Robyn or Cody among most of the children, and she doesn't see that changing anytime soon. The reality is that Cody built his dream home for a family that no longer exists. His children have progressed in their lives, establishing relationships with their mothers and amongst themselves while leaving their father on the outside looking in. Madison raising her children without him, Gabriel refusing to contact his contacts. Paydon has not spoken to him since Garrison's funeral. Mykelti moved across the country without saying goodbye. Isabelle has accepted that their connection will likely never be close. All of this occurred not because the old residents had negative recollections. However, because Cody made selections that broke his offspring's hearts repeatedly. No amount of real estate can fix that. The residence nobody desires to visit will remain exactly that until Cody ultimately accepts that construction materials cannot replace being an actual father. So, what do you think? Will Cody ever take true responsibility for his actions, or is this new living arrangement just another hollow gesture? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and like Soul Sister Wives because believe me, the next video is on its way and you won't believe what's next.